Joyce for 5 minutes for his questions.
Thank you, Chairman Palmer and Ranking Member Clark, for holding this important hearing, and thank you for our witnesses for testifying. Critical materials, specifically critical minerals, are required in many areas of manufacturing, ranging from products simple like a sunscreen, to light bulbs, to vital energy, and to defense applications. A steady supply of critical minerals is essential to protect America's economic and our national security. Unfortunately, for decades, we have ceded our advantage in the production and refining of these materials to other countries, specifically China. Over the last few years, we've seen the consequences of this domestic inaction as China bans or severely limits exports to the U.S. of critical minerals essential to our national security. Let's be clear. We cannot continue to allow our biggest adversary to control the supply chain for these materials. That's why President Trump has taken executive action, declaring a national energy emergency and aiming to increase domestic production and the refining of critical minerals. However, executive action alone might not be enough to provide a stable environment to attract new investment in the critical mineral supply chain. Mr. Hammond, in your written statement, you discussed projects that languish indefinitely due to politics, including a permit to conduct due diligence on a potential mine that took 3 years under the last administration, as opposed to the standard 3 months. Would you please elaborate on how the priorities of an administration can affect the implementation of the permitting process?
Sure. Someone can say that critical minerals is important, but if it's not a priority for an administration, you're not going to make any progress. In that case, like I said, a project stood still for 3 years for something that should have taken a matter of weeks. It was a project to drill sample holes from the back of a truck. So it took 3 years, and this is just exploration. It's not even a full-blown mine. It's just to see if we should build a mine there. Now, the rest of the story of that is even worse. They were ultimately sued, and even that project is now held up.
Incredibly unfortunate, but revealing information you have provided with us. How can we ease companies' concerns over the instability in political environments to ensure that the forward momentum of the Trump administration remains through future administrations, Mr. Hammond?
Sure. I think this Congress needs to look, as we've said earlier, permitting reform. I don't even like the term permitting reform because it's used so generically now. So more specifically, we have to look at narrowing the scope of NEPA and looking at exactly what we require of project applicants. If you wanted to do a project in this committee room, you'd want to study the committee room, right? You might even study the Rayburn building because it will probably impact the rest of the Rayburn building. But the way things stand right now in the mining community, you're not only going to be looking at this hearing room, the Rayburn building, you're probably also looking at the Dirksen Senate building over there as well to see what the impacts are. It doesn't make any sense. You have to narrow the focus of what project proponents are required to study.
Recognizing it's a chilling effect that you're describing on instability, how that can affect domestic investments. This committee included a provision in the reconciliation bill to establishing a de-risking compensation program at the Department of Energy. Under this program, applicants would be compensated for unrecoverable capital losses resulting from federal actions that previously federal permitting projects made unviable. How would a program that we're including in this upcoming legislation, which includes critical mineral projects as eligible applicants, how would that provide certainty to businesses and spur the investment that is so necessary when it comes to critical minerals, Mr. Hammond?
So I think a project proponent would look at that and see that the federal government is making a commitment. That would build confidence, and that's ultimately what you need before you make any kind of investment decision, and you're de-risking that decision. So anything we can do to build confidence through a program like that, I think the president's also talked about something similar, that if a future administration comes along and yanks a project, like in the case of Keystone XL, there would be compensation involved to make a future administration think twice before they just yanked a project that has already had billions of dollars invested in it.
Under President Trump, and with cooperation from Energy and Commerce, this committee, we look to build that confidence. we must do more to capitalize on the positive progress that President Trump has achieved in such short time. And I look forward to working with stakeholders as well as my colleagues on this committee to take advantage of this finite opportunity. I thank you all for appearing here today. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.